Good morning. Okay, so after the disastrous end to stream number 9, let me just make sure I have. Okay, I do have audio. Perfect. I wanted to make sure that um, I've been known to have technical difficulties. So, what I've done is I've gone back through and I've reevaluate kind of like my thoughts and ideas about where I am on some of this stuff. And, I'm an old pen and paper type guy. So, I've written down my ideas of where I kind of want to go with today's stream and just want to kind of go over some of that. The idea is I'm going to try to break down, I'm thinking I might be losing focus there a little bit, but I'm going to try to break down some stuff and put all the relevant code into the appropriate nodes. So things like right now with the game boards doing all of our stuff, our A star or tile turning or some of our tracking, not a whole lot. So I'm going to try to remove all of the tile based stuff into the actual dungeon tile map script. So I'll move that there. I'm going to create a separate actors node so then we can track all the players and all the monsters. I'll have a separate spawners node. And then we're going to go back, and the first thing I want to do is I want to hit on that combat manager. Because I figured out in between streams where I was messing up. Because what I was doing was going through the linked list, and if there was we tried to insert a lower initiative, and then it goes to the end of the list, I was not linking the last item back to the front of the list, and the front of the list back to the end of the list, because remember we have it going both directions. So just forgot one key step, and it's just 2 lines of code. Totally forgot that, but that's why all that stuff was breaking. So then we'll get our initiative system back up and going, and we'll get that working. And then we can revisit initiative a little bit later if we need to. The other thing, we're going to move the tiles around. We're going to fix that code. I have an idea of kind of like the add actor stuff. Just create like a registration thing in the turn manager. So then when we add somebody, that registration will then go through and it will do the roll the initiative, add it into the turn manager, stuff like that. So we'll do that. And then one of the other things I did here was I looked into, remember that bug we had if you watched the previous streams, where the characters were, if they're standing on the edge of one tile, there was no tile here, and then another tile that they could walk to, they would just walk across the empty space. It's because we weren't setting the non-existent stuff in A star as not walkable, as solid. So what we'll have to do is we'll have to slightly change how we do our A star. So whenever we build the new grid, we're just going to fill the entire box as not walkable. Then we go through an array, and we're going to set all the stuff that is walkable. So that will fix that bug. It's going to be a pretty easy fix. It's just, fill the array first solid, and then use the code that we already have. So it should be pretty straightforward. I haven't tested it yet. I believe it should work pretty fast. The other thing that I did find from poking around in the idea testing was, I believe right now, if we place in a tile that has a trap, a monster, or a chest, it does not spawn a floor tile. It just empty null space. So we're gonna have to go back through. We're gonna have to alter our drawing tile code a little bit so that it will draw the floor tile. And then when we see the 2, 3, 4 for those key items, we're going to add in a scene. We're going to spawn the scene at that location, and then it'll be like a monster spawner. And then my idea for this is we're going to spawn a spawner at that location. So it could be a trap spawner, it could be a monster spawner, a chest spawner. Because if you ever played any of these other games, there are things that like cause traps to reset, so they become active again. Or there could be some other things that trigger, hey, spawn 3 new monsters. I don't know exactly how that aspect stuff's going to work right now, but it's a pretty simple idea. So let's go ahead and build that in from the beginning. So then if we do implement that type of mechanics a little bit further down, we already have it. We can just trigger the spawner to spawn a new monster. So it's already existing. It already physically exists there. And then we have to do that. The other thing that I was thinking of in terms of back to kind of like the solid thing and spawning new monsters is right now our players can overlap each other. They can move and they just stack right on top of each other. I want to be able to make it so the players can walk through each other but can't stop on each other. Pretty simple thing. We just check to see if the destination square is occupied. If it is, that's not a valid move square. But what we want to try to do also is once we start adding monsters, we need to make sure the players can't move through the monsters. It'd be a lot easier if we just let them move through the monsters, but we want to try and make sure that they can't pass through them. So we're going to try, when we trigger the move, we need to mark the A-star grid for the monster as solid, saying that, you can't move through there. That's going to be a little bit more in depth. We're going to come back to that. Probably not today, but a little bit later. Yeah. And hopefully we've only got 4 hours left. So I'm hoping to close out Milestone 2 today/tomorrow. That's going to be a tight fit. I mean, we're already on Milestone 2 of 10 and we're already squeaking by. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump over here and we'll take a look at where we are at a couple things. So first let's go over here. And right now we are at just shy of 16 hours. We're at 15.9 hours on this project. So we've got a little bit of a tight window. So like I said, we only have 4 hours left of Milestone 2. So in Milestone 2, we have, we got to get all these heroes action. These are going to be fairly simple, straightforward. We're just going to add those buttons to the list so that they're there. Then we can check all those off. We don't have to worry about implementing those. That's going to be more down here in these other stuff. The game manager, like I talked about, this is going to be my vision that I have for it is the actual game manager. It's going to be all the persistent stuff. So anything that's needs to be tracked between dungeon runs, the heroes items and stuff like that, how much gold the party has, things along those lines will be held in the game manager. We have the combat manager. We have the turnstile implemented. The enemy decision engine, I originally had this in here because I wanted the monsters to move in this milestone. We obviously have some issues with time. And I also felt like, making this decision engine, let's kick it right down into milestone 3. So we're down here in our monster AI enemy decision. Let's move it down to there. So I'm just kind of moving that around to the next milestone because I feel like it fits in there with the monster AI. So it's not really we're not really punting it till later. We're just kind of moving it into what we already had because we basically have the double thing in there. So again, our goal here at the end of the next 4 hours is we need to have monsters spawn, add to the turn order, and our units can move around the board. We've already got units moving around the board. We have a couple bugs to fix. We need to add in the monster spawns, and then we need to fix our turn order initiative. So that's the goal for the next couple hours that we're going to be working on this. So let's go back over here. Let's go into our Kanban. Let's take the decision engine. Oh, hold on. Dungeon Fogger only. There we go. Let's put the enemy decision engine. We're going to kick that back over here to our to-do. So we're going to finish out. Let's finish out the action turn system. Actually, first things I want to do, let's fix that turn order initiative before I go too much farther, because I don't want to forget about what we need to do there and minimize. Oh, you know what I should do? I should mute myself just to make sure that I don't get interrupted. There we go. Okay, so let's go back over here. Let's work on, we're going to start work on this. So our timer is going. I have changed this screen to, I believe it's only, 125 instead of the 150 I've been using. So let me know if that is still readable to you guys or not. I want more space. I prefer, usually using the full 100% instead of the 150. 150% is what I use when I make tutorials for my students. They find it's easier to read on the screen, especially because they're copying the code. This is a little bit different. I'm not, if someone's copying my code and working through this, cool. But that wasn't the intent. The intent was more just showing you what I'm doing. So I've reduced the font a little bit here so I can get a little bit more real estate to work with. So hopefully it's still readable to you guys. But right here, this is where we're going to work with. So here's our, where is it here? Here's our add actor. So we're going through current node, like right here. If it's the first item we're adding to our linked list, we set it references to itself. Then we come through, we check here, is the initiative greater than or equal to, and then we add it in. And then down here, what we did for the tail is we set the next actor to the new turn node and the new turn node to the previous actor, but we're never setting the end of the list. So we need to add that in right now. So let me take a sip of coffee and we'll add those in. And this should fix the issues we were having. Okay, so let's see here. Let's do our new turn node. And then we're going to do the next actor is going to equal the current turn node. Okay, and then the current turn node dot previous actor is going to equal the new turn node. Okay, so this should double link the end of the array. So the last item goes back to the very first, and the first says the previous is the end. So that should fix that, I believe. So let's go back here. We have our initiative system here. And where did we do the roll initiative? I think it was in the game board. So where's our ready function? Here we go. Ready function. Combat manager set. Okay, so we did it in the combat manager. Combat manager. Yeah, here we go. For I equals 5. Okay, so let's we can actually do this the exact opposite, and then we just do minus equals 5. So this will load them in the reverse order. So if this fixed everything, then what we should see is player 1's going to get 25, player 2's going to get 20, 20, 15, and then 10. So we should load them in reverse order. So it should be player 1, 2, 3, 4. Excuse me. And then we should not get that error anymore. Hey, look, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, perfect. So that should fix it, but let's just verify here. Let's go ahead and get rid of this. We don't need the I anymore. Okay, let's put this into, what did we call this? Initiative system. What we didn't call a reference to it. Combat. Let's minimize these guys here. Initiative system. Okay, let's pull that in. Oh, yeah, I'm going to put this here now, but when we do the cleanup, I'm going to change this slightly. So we'll do initiative system dot, what do we call it? Roll initiative. Okay. And then we're passing in the actor. So let's see, we're passing in actor right here. Okay. There we go. So now this should randomly roll. We shouldn't get crashes. Hey, look at that. Player 3 is 14, so their highest. Player 1 is 10. Player 2 is 6, and player 4. Okay, let's just run this a couple times. And we got a tie here between player 1 and player 3. So player 3 gets added before player 1 because they're the second instance. And then player 2. Okay, so that looks right. So that's interesting, you know, with a tiebreaker. Here I have it. So if I just did greater than... now, if there's a tie, the second one with the tie should go last, if I remember this right. So here we go. We got player 1, player 4. So it should be player 3, 2, 1, 4. 3, 2, 1, 4. Okay. So this is where I kind of wow, can't talk. My idea was, you know, maybe I want something more complex for the initiative system. Maybe I want, instead of 1 to 20, I want 1 to 100 or 1 to 1,000 to try to help reduce the possibility of the overlap. There's some other more complex things we can do. So like if a monster ties with a player, we can always say the player gets the higher spot. You know, we could program in a whole bunch of that type of logic. But for right now, I think just the way we have it right here, this should work. So then whoever says, hey, I have initiative 2, and then the second, whoever comes up next, like a monster, says, hey, I also rolled initiative 2, we're going to put them after whoever has the previous one. So if there's already 3 people with initiative 2, the monster also rolls a 2, the monster is going to take the 4th spot, because it's going to say it's not greater, it's not greater, it's not greater. Okay, now it's the end of the list, or it's greater than 1 or whatever. So we'll keep it that way. So that will fix our initiative problem. So that's fine there. Okay. Okay. So the next thing, let's see. Let's look at our list here. Let's do. Let's fix the bug with the A star. I think we should do that first. So let's see here. So where we go in the game board. Okay. And then where we do the add tile. Is that where we're doing the A star updates? Yes, here we go. Yeah, and we're using this rect right here. Okay. So we don't need this anymore. We can get rid of that. Okay, so we do the A star grid update. Okay, and then here, so this sets our region, our rectangle. So then right here, before we decide to say what's walkable and set the points here, we need to fill it solid. So let's just do, we already have the region, A star region. So let's do a temporary one. So let's do another regim equals the A star grid dot region. Okay. I just hit my insert key by accident there. So let's do for X in the range, range, R-A-N-G-E, range. And then what we need to do is we need to go through the entire A star grid region and set all these to not walkable. So let's do region dot X. Is it dot X? Is it no region dot I think it's position. There we go, dot X. And then we need to do the same thing. Region dot position dot Y. right? So no, we need region. That's not right. Because this is just X. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to do the end dot X. Okay. And then within there, we need to do the same thing for Y. So for Y in region position Y dot end Y. Okay. And then what we're just going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to set the point solid, the ID, and then we're just going to set this to the X and Y coordinates, which is our, so that's what the ID is going to be, but we're going to just set this to true because it's going to be solid. And then this is going to be our X and Y. So we need to pass it in as a vector 2i. So let's do a vector 2i, X comma Y, right? Just want to make sure it's X, what are we doing here? Hold on. Just trying to think out loud. So if X is 0, then we're going to do through all the Y's. Okay, so this is going to draw it by column. Okay, so X and Y, that should be fine. So this should prevent us from being able to walk through those null squares. So let's give this a shot. Okay, so let's do who's up. And we should make it so that we can tell who's up. Okay, so let's open this, and then we'll move him down to here. Okay, we're not getting good tiles here to help start with this process. And we'll just stay where you are. Okay, that will work. Hopefully we'll get another good one here. Okay, and then one more. Let's see, who are we up to? Oh, right, we can't. Because we did the action points thing, I ran out of action points because we're not refreshing the action points at the beginning of the turn. Okay, so to test that out, we're not able to test that out yet because I'm doing the action points. So where are we doing that? That is in, just for S&Gs, let's put this to 10 for right now. That should give us the ability to do this stuff that we need to do. Yeah, you're good there. Boom. Oh, right, because that means he needs to spend 10. Okay. So where do we have next turn active? So where do we move? Turn manager, current turn node equals this. Next turn emit, new turn emit. And then here we need to do this. Okay. Then that. Okay. So then that should set. This is not going to be how we want to do it because if we're going to be getting multiple things, but I'm just trying to get this working for right now so we can test this. So 1, 2, buckle my shoe. Okay. Let's see. Move you here. Let's just get this tile. Okay. So then if I move him to here, then the old bug was if I hit move and did here, he would go out through the space. Okay. And now he's going out and around. Okay. So that does solve the problem of them trying to walk through the empty space. Okay. So we got that. Let me see here. Let's check these off here. Let's see. So we did we fixed the linked list. We filled the A* region as impassable to make it walkable. Okay. Let's see. What else do I want? What do I want to tackle next? Do I want to tackle the restructuring, or do I want to do? Oh, we can take this out. We don't need this right now. Okay, so move that out. Let's work on this restructuring. So let's create a new dungeon tile map. Let's create a new script here. And then let's take all of our stuff here that's not A-star related and move it over to the dungeon tile map. This is going to be a, you know what, let's do something smart here. Let's do, okay, let's see, A-star, bug fix, and then we also did a turn linked list fix. Okay, so let's put that in there just to make sure that we if we mess up this refactoring, it doesn't come back to bite us. Okay, so in here, let's go back to our game board. So we need, let's see here, the stack control is going to stay with the game board. The draw terrain, all that stuff is going to be moved. So let's see, let's start with make 2D array, that's going to move. Draw terrain from array, that's going to move. Rotate the tiles, those are going to move. Rotate. Position to cell. Oh, look, there's another one I need to change the name of. Snap to room. I call it snap tile instead. Show possibles needs to stay here. Okay, so let's take this and move that over to here. Okay, and then this is, oops, class. Wow, I can't type. Class name, call it dungeon tile map. Okay. Okay, and then let's see here. So dungeon tile map, so because it's only itself, we don't need that reference here. Okay, and again, dungeon tile map, it's itself, so we don't have to call the reference to the dungeon tile map because it's us. And then here we have, these are the cell tile size. So tile size is not being set, but we called that in here. Where did we set up our tile size? Did we just make it a constant? We did. Okay. So let's pull that out of here. Okay. And then let's put that over here at the top. Okay. Okay, so that fixes that. Let's go back over here to our game board. Boom. Okay. So here's our entrance tile. We're sending the data. Let me think about this. We do, what do we need? What do we need? So this is all A-star grid functionality. This is A-star grid. This is connecting the explore tiles. Combat manager, next turn, move button. Okay, so this all can stay here for right now until we move it into a game manager. That's fine here. Show possibles. We definitely need that. So it looks like we need the, so we'll probably need, can we just call it, or do we need to have the functions? I think if we just call it, then we should be fine. So let's do that. So let's see here. Dungeon, tile map, dot position to cell. And again, I'm going to rename it. So I'm just going to call it snap tile. I'm going to come back over here. Well, let's call this snap tile. And then I think, okay, Let's go back over here. Let's see here. So we got tile origin minus tile size. And then this is going to be coming from dungeon tile map dot tile size. We're probably going to use this reference a lot. Do we want to move? No, we're going to keep those on the game board. So that's going to be fine. We'll keep those there. You know what? Instead of doing it like this, where we're doing that, because we're going to keep using this dungeon tile size, let's go up here in our, we'll set up a variable for it called tile size. That'll be an int, and we're just going to set the 0 for, we'll set the 4 by default. And then in our ready, here we can set up the tile size equals this dot tile underscore. Did it do underscore size, or what did I do? Underscore size. Okay. Okay. So then here, tile size. Okay. So we just changed this to lowercase. So then this is going to pull from our dungeon tile map. So then in case, you know, we decide to add a new map in there and the new map is 6 by 6 tiles or 8 by 8 tiles, then we should be able to accommodate that properly there. Okay. So let's see, where are we here? Add tile. So we pick the new tile, we match the direction. Horizontal explore. Okay, so this right here, this is all stuff that needs to move into the dungeon tile map. So we need to, so we pick the new tile, calculate our orientation. So if we're up, I'm just trying to think about the separation of church and not church and state, but the separation of how we're going to break these apart. Do we want to move this entire match statement into the dungeon tile map? Probably not, because right now what we're matching, actually, you know what we could do? We could move that. Yeah, let's move this into the dungeon tile map, and then we will just pass in the direction, because we're just matching on the direction, so we can pass that over to a function in the dungeon tile map. So let's just make a new function in here, and let's call, well, just call it draw direct. Actually, yeah, draw direction. We'll just call it orient. Function ORIENT. Orientation. No. How do I want it? Function rotate. Rotate tile. Let's make it a good name. Rotate tile. And then in here is going to be a direction. RECT. And that's going to be a vector 2. TOR2. Okay. And then we'll just match it here. And then based on the match, we will then call draw terrain from array. Oh, and we need to pass in the new tile as well. New tile. And that is going to be tile data. Or did I just call it tile? I'm trying to remember now. Let's go look back and look. New tile. New tile is equals to pick new tile, returns a tile. Okay. So here, new tile is a tile. Perfect. Function rotate tile, match direction. Okay. Expected parameter. Oh. Is that what we want? Oh, no, we don't want var. What am I doing? I'm just being a bonehead and defining functions. Okay. Coordinates. Okay, so we need to also pass in the coordinates. And those are vector 2i, I believe. Let's go back and double check. Game board. Yeah, game board, right? Where did we just take this from? Here we go. So we got vector 2i, yes. Okay. So this we're going to call the dungeon tile map dot rotate. What do they call it? Rotate tile. So I believe what we called it. Yeah, rotate tile. Here we go. So we'll just copy all this over. Paste that in here. Okay. So we're going to pass in the direction. Okay. We need to pass in the new tile. Okay. And then we need to pass in the coordinates. Okay. So now we don't need this at all. Okay. Okay. So we rotate the tile. That should be good there. And then this is, we're just pulling the data from the dungeon tile map to draw our A star. Okay. This is again A star. Okay. So we're not doing a calculation of the orientation anymore. So we're just doing that. Okay. Pick a new tile. The tile stack is staying here in the game board. Setup stack, the advanced turn. Okay. So that should be good. This needs to be dungeon tile map dot. Okay. So in theory, if this refactor worked, everything should be moving, or not moving, but working properly. Okay. Right now it kind of looks like it is. That looks good. Okay. Yep. No, we can't. No, we can still move. Boom. Move. Okay. Yeah, so that looks good. Let's just try one more here. Move. Okay, and that all looks like it's working. Okay, so we moved all the logic out of here, out of the game board, and moved it into the dungeon tile map. So anything in here are 2D array to draw solid stuff. The rotate tile. Actually, are we even using this? Make 2D array? Yes, we are right here. Okay, so we are using that. Snap tile. Okay, so that's all good there. Just double check. We got the board, we got the weights. Yep, A star grid. Okay. So we don't need this. So let's get this out here. Leaving in some of this commented code is good for understanding what we're doing, but we don't necessarily need to keep that in there the entire time and reference back to it. So let's see here. Let's just make making sure that I still have audio because I don't want to lose that. Okay, so we got that. Let's see. We moved the tile functions to the tile node. Okay. While we're in this mode, let's do this. Let's change the add tile to also put down floors for anything else, for a trap, a monster, anything like that. So this is going to be one of those times where our tile editor is going to be very, very useful for us. So if we come back in here and let's go into our library, let's take our entrance. Here we go, edit. So we got these dead ends. These ones aren't put into the tile stack yet, but our entrance is, and this will be put in every time. So we're always going to start with the players in this corner right now. So let's add in a monster right here. Let's add in a chest right here and a trap right there. There we go. So now if we save this, okay. Why did this not? Okay. Why did... Because now I moved the stuff into the tile editor. Is that why? Read only value. Did I write protect that? Let's go over here. It looks like I may have write protected that one, so I can't edit it. Okay. Yep. Okay, so let's make a... Why did I do that? Why did I make it so I can't edit that? Okay. Well, I made it so the entrance can't be editable. So let's create a new tile. Create tile. Let's call it entrance 2. And then we'll put in a monster right there. Why is this not working? Okay, let's do a quick reload. I wonder if there's just some weird bug that we have going on here. Okay, so let's create a new one. We're just going to call it entrance 2 for now. Entrance 2. There we go. We're going to do a monster right there. Chest right here and a... Yep, okay, so now we're not getting an error. And a trap right there. Okay. So then if we go here, we save it to the library. Okay, and now we have entrance 2. Okay, so this is going to give us one of each. So if we come back over into our script here, that was really weird that was doing that. But if we go into our game board here and we set up our entrance tile, dungeon, where is our... Oh, where did we put the entrance? Entrance. Here we go. Here's... Oh, it's in the... It's in the UID. That's why I didn't see it. So if we come down here and we look at entrance 2 and we put that in, UID is fine, but sometimes it's hard to understand what's going on. So now if we run this, you can see here, like these two, it placed the tiles properly, but this one it did not. So what did our entrance 2? So it did not place the trap one properly. It did place the monster and the chest, but it did not place the trap. That's weird, because before my testing, I thought it skipped all 3, but apparently it's only skipping that one. Okay, so let's go look at our script for our add tile in here. Add tile, or is it draw tile? Draw terrain from array. Okay, so we're coming in here. So we get cells by terrain. Okay, so where are we adding? If cells by terrain has terrain ID, cells by terrain ID equals blank. Oh, where are we doing this? Where are we? We're getting the terrain ID here. So we're going to look at the data. If terrain ID equals null, we continue. If it does not have a terrain ID, but where are we doing? So where are we reading the data in? It's probably back where we're doing... Oh, you know what? It's back in the game board where we're doing the draw tile. Pick new tile. Here we go. Pick weight. Okay, we do that. We'll return the new tile. Actually, I want to double check something. Let's do visible navigation. Okay, yeah. So where are we checking? Where are we checking the data? We're doing it here. Show possibles. Okay, and then when we add the tile, we pick the random new tile. We go through the rotation tile. So we have the direction, we have the new tile, and the coordinates. Okay, so let's go look at our rotate tile. So here, so it's going to be by default up. We're going to send the cell data and the coordinates to the draw terrain from array. Okay. So here's our data. So we look at our size. Terrain ID equals data at that point. So if the terrain ID equals null, continue. So if that's the case, kicks out of the loop. But we're not looking at terrain ID. What did I do? Oh my God, I need to go back to like 10 hours ago and figure out what I did. Because when we save it, we go entrance tile 2, and we look at our array, our cell data. You know, we're saving, here we go, 3, 2, and 4. We didn't create terrain data for, we have floors and walls. We have 0 and 1. Excuse me. Terrains, yeah. We just have terrain 0. Okay. If not, cells by terrain has terrain ID. So let's just print out the terrain ID right here. Print. Oops. Let's just make sure that we're working with the right data here. Oops. Helps if I run the game in the right place. Okay. Yes. So this is terrain ID. It's probably not a good idea to call it terrain ID. I think that's where I'm getting myself mixed up. Okay. So yeah, so this is the value that we're looking at. Okay, so if cells by terrain has a terrain ID, so if it does not have a terrain ID, cells by terrain ID equals 0. If it does have an ID, which it should, append it, and then for terrain ID and cells by key, set cells, terrain connect, cells by terrain ID. Okay, so we're doing the cells, the terrain set, the terrain, ignore empty terrain cells. So update all the cells. So what I need to do is we need to break it out. So if the terrain ID is going to be equal to like 2, I think is monster. I'm trying to remember now what the value is. But so if the terrain ID is going to equal monster, we need to put a monster spawner at that location. If it's a chest, if it's a trap, we need to put those at that location. So we need to, where were we? We were just looking at right there. So right there, we need to then fill it in as a 0 because that's our floor. So let's see here. If there is no terrain ID, continue. If the terrain ID equals 2, print spawn monster. Okay. So if we do that, we should see one spawn monster come up here. Yeah, spawn monster. Okay. And then cells by terrain. So this is our dictionary. Cells by terrain. Terrain ID equals, if it doesn't have that terrain ID, we set it to blank. Cells by terrain, terrain ID, dot append. Okay. So what we're doing, okay, now I remember my logic. So what we're doing is we're defining this dictionary to have multiple entries. So like right now, I'll just take this out right here. So we do the cells by terrain, and then we store separate a dictionary based on 0 for floors, dictionary 1 for walls, dictionary 2, and all that stuff. So if we print out our cells by terrain, right here, dot keys, and then this is where we're setting it. So if I just do a print right here, print, print terrain ID, then we're going to get all of our IDs here, 0, 3, 2, 4. Okay. So we're already, why aren't we doing a 1? What are we doing with the walls? Oh, right. There's no walls in this tile. Because if I came back into the tile editor here and we add a wall, say right there, and then we hit save, now when we do this, we should see, yep, there's the 1, because now there's a wall. Okay. So let's go back to the dungeon tile map. Let's just leave that in there for right now. This is a terrain entrance tile 2 that we're going to probably end up skipping over. Okay. So in here. Okay. So here we're going through arrays of each one. Set cells connect cells by terrain ID, 0. Terrain ID false. Okay, so then we update all the cells in the coordinates that we pass in. So here's our array. So they use the given terrain for the given terrain set. So set 0 terrain ID. Okay. If an updated cell has the same terrain as one of the neighboring cells, function joins the two. Okay, that's fine. If ignore empty terrains is set to true, so ignore empty terrains is true, empty terrains will be ignored when trying to find the best fitting tile for the given terrain constraints. To work correctly, this method requires tile set to have terrain set up with all required terrain combinations. Otherwise, it may produce unexpected results. Okay. Okay. So let's think through this here. For terrain ID in cells by terrain keys. Okay. So terrain ID 0 is the floor. Set cells, terrain connect. We pass in the cells, the floor cell array. We say it's tile set 0, and we send it the terrain ID of 0. Okay. But why are which makes sense, but why are the monster and the chest drawing floor tiles? Because those should not exist on the terrain ID. That's the part that's really baffling me, is they should not exist. So once we do this, so let's take this right here. Okay. So let's print out the array. Print the array. Oops. Helps if I use the right style brackets. Okay. So if we look here, so our floor exists at 0, 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, 0. Yep. 0, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1. Okay. And it should be right down through here too. 0, 2, 3, 2. Then 0, Okay, 0, 2, and then 3, 2. Okay. And then 0, 3. Why did this? Didn't we already have 0, 3? And 1, 3. X, 1, 3, 0, 3. Okay, so that's this row. Okay, so we're skipping over those. And then in the next row, we have 1, 2, 1, 2, which is this one. That is the treasure chest. And then we have 2, 2, which is this one. Then we have 2, 3, and then we have 3, 3. So 3, 3 is being drawn because that is tile ID of 1, which is our walls. So that's perfectly fine. But it's weird that these terrains for the floors are drawing. They shouldn't be drawing. So I don't know why they are. Because our terrains, if we go into our tile set, get out of here. We go in here. We go into our tile set here. Paint. We go into our terrains. We have terrain. Whoops. Terrains. Terrain set 0. We have floors, which is 0, and walls, which is 1. So why is it drawing on 2 and 3, but not 4? Was that 4? What was our trap? Trap is, I believe, oops, tile editor. Trap is 4. Yeah, 4. Either way, I mean, that should not be, I mean, let's see. Is it even letting us be walkable on those? Probably not. Let's see. Move. It is. It's saying that that's valid to be walked on. This is not. This is a trap. But this should be a monster and a chest, right? Isn't that how we designed that? Chest, monster. Okay. So, oops. Okay. So this is a chest. This is a monster. That's a trap, and that's a wall. So why are we drawing what about our tile set here is allowing us to draw a 2 and a 3 floor? Don't know. Doesn't make sense. But what we can do here. So let's see here. Where did we... So we've got the print here, cells by terrain. Okay. Well, what we want to do is where did we check before? Up. We were checking right here. Boom. Okay. So if terrain ID equals 2, what we can do here is, let's say, is it 4? Yeah, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. We can do, we can add it into 0, and then we can append that. So then if it's terrain ID 4, we're going to add it into the floor array, and then we can just do a comment here, spawn trap trap spawner add, there we go, add trap spawner to map. There we go. Or to game board is what we should probably say. Game board. Okay. So now this should fix that in theory. We should get that walkable square at the bottom if I try to run the right scene. Yep. Now we have the walkable square. We can come down here. Okay. That's just baffling me. Why is it doing that for 2 and 3 when we clearly don't have anything set up for 2 and 3? I mean, I should, in theory, have to do this for each chest and monster. I should have to do that. So I don't understand If not, sells by terrain has terrain ID. So if it's not in there, oh, that's just adding an empty dictionary. Okay. So if sells by terrain has terrain ID like 4, sells by terrain ID is going to be blank. We're going to add the blank dictionary item, and then down here we add it in by the ID. Okay. So we got that. So we should do if terrain ID. Really, we should probably do a match here, but yeah, you know what? Let's just do a match. Let's do a match here. I like match statements. Match terrain ID, colon, oops, colon. And we'll do 4. Okay. And then we can just copy these and do, that's 2 and 3. So let's do here 2 and 3. And then 2 is going to be add monster spawner. And then this will be add chest spawner. Okay, so just make sure that doesn't break anything. I don't think it will. Everything should be good here. Yep. Okay. So then we can still move through all these squares. Okay, so they're being added as valid squares into the floorboard. Then we get added into the A star properly. I don't understand how. I still don't understand how those were working before, because we don't have a terrain 2 and 3. So I don't know why they were drawing. Why were they drawing floor tiles? I mean, things were working in our favor, but it doesn't make sense how they were working in our favor. So that's a very, very confusing thing. But we have that now. So we have the spot that we can then call it when we need to add in those monster spawners, chest spawners, etc. Okay. So let's see. What did we do here? Change the add tile to also put down floors for anything else. 2, 3, and 4. Yeah, we did that. Okay. Make the let's keep going through here. Let's pick off some low-hanging fruit. Let's make the rest of the action list. It's going to be clunky, but for testing until we get to the UI in unit number or milestone number 8. So let's go back over here to our plan document. We have move, we have attack. We want cast spell, disarm trap, and open the chest. Okay. So let's go back here. Our panel. We have attack, move. We need to add in, 3 more? Cast, disarm, and open. So let's do cast button. Disarm button. And disarm. And the last one is chest button. Okay. Actually, do we want a... I don't think I want a chest button. Now that I think about it, maybe we want search, kind of like HeroQuest has. Thanks, Overlord. Can I actually make a dungeon crawler fun? I'm hoping so. I'm definitely hoping I can make this fun, but we got to get there first. We got to get the basic logic going, and then once I get this open to playtesters, hopefully we'll be able to tweak this and make it a lot of fun. I enjoy the board games a lot. I've really loved sitting down playing them with my son, and if I can do this without having to tear down and set up every time, that'd be awesome. It's the main reason why I'm doing this is A, I love those type of games, and B, Tales from Candlekeep was one of my favorite games, and it's no longer available on Steam. You can't buy it anywhere. And so I kind of want to fill that void of making something that's playable and fun. There's another game that I just saw. It was Dark Dungeon 4, I think it was. I think that was what it's called. something along those lines. It's kind of the same idea of like a Hero's Quest thing. I'm not fully understanding how they're doing it because it looks like they're using predetermined dungeons as they go through. I'm not a big fan of the animation style that they're using, but they've done 4 different iterations on this game, and it looks like pretty cool. They're doing something that's a lot of fun, and hopefully I can create something that's fun, something that's enjoyable and people like. And if this idea, forgive me if I'm going to it's going to sound like a weird comparison, but if you ever played like the original Assassin's Creed, the very first one felt like a tech demo. Like, imagine what you could do with this. And then in the second game, you're like, wow, look, we made an awesome game with that tech demo that we did for Assassin's Creed 1. I'm kind of viewing this one kind of the same thing. Dungeon Fire tiles that I'm building right here, think of it more as, here's the tech demo, here's all the cool stuff we can do with it. And now, like, if I make a sequel to it, then I can really expand upon it. Or, more likely the case, this goes into early access, and then we can expand upon that, add more classes and all that stuff. Overlord asks, what art style you're going to be using, 2D or 3D? Right now it's 2D. I have not explored a whole lot in 3D, so I'm not as familiar with it, but I'm already got a lot of ideas and how to make it 3D. And there's some things that are going to will be a lot easier to do in 3D than in 2D. So right now I have a slightly isometric 2D art style that I'm using, and I can't just rotate the rooms as I pull them and add them in, because then it rotates the art with it, which totally throws off the look of things. And so I have to use terrain sets and all that stuff to try to make everything work together. Whereas if it's in 3D, I just build the 3D tile, plop it down, and off it goes. So there's a lot of benefits to doing it 3D. I just don't know 3D well enough to make a fully functioning game in 100 hours. I've had 2 years experience, well, over 2 years now experience in Godot making 2D games. So I understand the technical stuff and the programming side of 2D. So that's what I'm going with right now. And it's a very minimalistic art style. It's an 8x8 based pixel. It's called Mini Fantasy. I can't think of, it's like Cash or something like that. I can't remember the artist name, but if you look for Mini Fantasy on itch, you'll be able to see the art style. There's actually a game coming out called Fantasy World Manager that's using the exact same art assets. And that game, I think it's due to launch here within the next month or so on Steam. And it's basically you populate a world and then you just hit go and watch the world, resolve itself. Nations fight each other and all that stuff using the same style art. So it's a pretty cool idea. If you get a chance, look it up on Steam. It's called Fantasy World Manager. It's using the exact same art assets that I'm using for this game. So. Okay, so let's go back. Let's get these. Do I want chest button or do I want search? I feel like we need search or else we won't be able to. No, we don't need search because we're going to populate. Either way, we're going to do. I'm just going to label it as a chest button right now. We may go back and redo this because the D&D adventure stuff, the traps are shown on the board when the tile comes in. Hero Quest, the traps are hidden until you search for them. So we have 2 different ways that we can do this type of stuff. And having the traps hidden could be fun. Having them on the board might be a little bit more straightforward and easy. So who knows? So let's see. Cast spell, disarm trap. Wow, I am doing a poor job today of spelling disarm trap. There we go. And open chest. Okay. So now we have our basic, if we come back in here, we have our basic action system. Right now I'm going to, oops, don't want to bold that. I'm going to just go back into these buttons, and because right now attack, cast, disarm, and chest, don't do anything. We're just going to disable those. Okay. So then all we can do right now is just move. And then when we get into UI, which is in Milestone 8, that's going to be where we're going to make this all pretty and make it work. We may have to revisit some stuff because Mini Fantasy does supply a UI pack, which I'm actually using in my Castlevania game. If you've seen Simon's Tribute, I'm using that for the menus in there. I'm about to redo the menus in that game, so I may change that stuff. But right now we're in a 320 by 200, I think it is. Window. Yeah, we're rendering at 320 by 200. We do have the ability to zoom in and zoom out. But I don't know, for our UI, do we want to still be restricted to that 320 by 200? I'm using control nodes because those will scale with the interface or whatever the actual window's being rendered at. So I might stick with that. I don't know yet. I'm not a big art style. I'm still learning Adobe Illustrate to try to figure that type of stuff out. But we'll see where we get to. So let's see here. Let's go back to our list here. Make the rest of the action list. It's clunky, but it's there for functionality so we can connect stuff when we're ready. Okay. Are you planning to add a character customization system in the future? This is, I don't know if you follow Aramis on YouTube or not. The guy who just created a game about feeding the black hole. He has what he likes to call a nice to have list, and he kind of puts it on, to control scope creep. He just says, hey, let's put this on the future. I have a maybe for the sequel list is what I like to call it. And so character customization is going to be more in the next game, like maybe you're going to be able to rename them, stuff like that. And so what I plan on doing for the customization, it's going to be very limited in this game. So each character is going to be able to equip a cloak and equip a weapon. And then when we get into Milestone 8, is it? Where is it here? Milestone, where's the items? Here we go. Milestone 4. When we get into Milestone 4, I need to figure out the system of how we're going to do the actual items. Is it going to be a shared party? Like everybody has just one collective bag of holding and that every character can pull from? Or are we going to give each character their own set inventory? Because if you've ever played Tales from Candle Keep, each character has their own inventory. You can set up the healing potions and magic missile wands and all that stuff. I don't know if I'm going to do it that way or if I want to keep it shared, because the idea behind Dungeon Fodder is basically characters are going to die. And so if it's a shared party treasure, if the character dies, they're only going to lose their weapon and their cloak. Whereas if they have their own separate inventory, they're going to lose all the healing potions, any other type of items that they might have when they die. So when we get to Milestone 4, then we have to figure that, how are we going to do that? Because they're already each going to have their own inventory because they have to have the weapon and the cloak. So we can just expand that to a couple extra slots, or would it be more fun for playtesting to have a shared inventory? So when we get to, I think it's Milestone 5, when we start doing playtest, I might very well, Milestone 6 playtest. When we get to Milestone 6, I may very well have both versions available so people can playtest and go, I like the shared inventory or I like the personalized inventory, that type of stuff. So that's kind of the most I'm planning on for customization, because we're trying to keep this scope narrow and down to only 100 hours. So that's where I'm thinking right now of how to keep that constrained, because I love D&D. I'd love to give each of these characters a full, oops, sorry about that, hitting the mic, give them a full character sheet and inventory and all that stuff. But right now, I don't foresee that happening in the 100-hour tight scope window. But thanks for the question. So let's see. We got that. Let's go back. the idea I had originally about creating a registration system in our combat manager, because our combat manager right now is kind of keeping track of the entire game flow. So we're gonna go into that, and let me think about, do I want to do that first, or no, before we do that, let's go back. Let's refactor our game tree. Let's refactor our game tree so we have a better flow. Okay. So let's see here. So we got the game board. This is the dungeon tile. Okay, so that's under there. This is our UI. I probably just broke a whole bunch of stuff by doing that. So let's actually leave this canvas layer, because I think all of this is... Oh, there's only one thing here. Oh, because I gave unique names. Yeah, let's just call this, we'll rename this to UI. Okay, and then we'll just change that to UI. There we go. That should not break things, move. Yeah, okay, perfect. Okay. Okay, so then what we need to do here. So what I've got, these are horizontal. I want to move all of these guys into their own, add the node 2D. And this is going to be called, what do I want to call it? Actors? Actors. Okay, and then we're going to move all the players into the actors. Okay, which means we need to update this, because now Godot was probably smart enough to understand that I moved these around and kept them there, but I just want to make sure, because sometimes if the references are off, then when we go to use it, it's like, hey, those guys are missing. Yeah, see right here. Okay. So because now we've moved them, and we're trying to reference the dungeon tile map, which is going to be, so if I go here, now we're referencing, hold on, let's go back to our local tree. So they need to up a level. They're only hitting actors. We need to go up one more level to get there. I don't like this, but until we rebuild our characters, I'm just going to leave it like this, and then we'll refactor them when we get there. That should fix that. And now, yeah. Oh man, I kind of want to refactor it now, but I think that's the only place we need to refactor it. We haven't actually built the character. That's the next milestone when we start building all the character class stuff. So when we do that, we'll go into there and do that. Okay. So we moved them into the actors. And let's see, what else do we want? Actors. I want to have a new one. Node. It's going to be a node 2D as well. And this is going to be a spawners, because this is where I want to keep all of my treasure chest spawners, monster spawners, and trap spawners. I want to keep them all in there, because then when they spawn, they'll add an actor into the actors node, and then we can work from there. The other thing I want to do, actually, while I'm thinking of it, let's do these guys here, and let's add a group, a global group. We're going to call it players. Okay, and then let's add one more global group, and call it monsters. And the reason why I'm doing this is when we get, like I was talking about earlier with the A-star grid navigation, when players move, we want them to be able to move through each other, and we don't want them to move through monsters. So what I can do with the grouping, it's going to be a lot easier than doing some of the other ways, is I can just get all the monsters that are in the group, quickly cycle through those in the A-star grid, and turn those squares into solid. So then when the player goes to move, it says, hey, you can't move through these squares because there's a monster there. So, okay, so we got spawners, we've got actors, we've got our combat manager. Yeah. And we have a camera. These, I'm a little torn on this. I don't know if I like the way I'm doing this system here. I'm just going to put UI at the very bottom just because that's where I like that. Because these are overlapping. You know, we're building those on They're kind of a tile map because they're going to be based on tile size, but they're on top of the game board. Not sure if I really like the way we're doing that, but this at least should give us some more structure. So then we can kind of keep everything separated. So again, like we did earlier today, we moved all the dungeon tiles, all the rotation, the drawing, and all that stuff into functions in the dungeon tile map. We're going to have all the characters, all the monsters and everything appear under the actors. All the trap spawners, monster spawners appear under spawners. And then this game board is going to be, think of it as the dungeon scene that we're playing. And then I'm going to have a global, and this is why I haven't set up F5 yet to run this scene. I've been using F6 to run all this stuff. Is the game manager global is actually going to control all the persistent values. So eventually, probably all of these will get loaded in from that game manager. So that's the idea. And the reason why I did this now is now I want to add in, I should not have a pen in my hand because I'm going to keep clicking it. I want to add in our combat manager, and let's have a registration process in here so that we can register actors. Okay, so let me think about here how I want to do this. Let's do we got the check actor function move. Okay, let's function. Let's regis register actor. Okay, and then when we register the actor, we need to know what the actor is. I'm trying to think here because actors could be a living spell. It could be a bunch of things. Do we want to do those as a character body? Well, this is only going to be stuff that has initiative passes. So let's think about that. If it's only initiative pass or characters with initiatives, let's pass them in via. Yeah, let's just do character body 3Ds for right now. We're calling them actors, so character body 3D or 2D makes sense. So we'll call in. We'll call that in. Whoops. My void. There we go. Okay. And then so the first thing we want to do, let's just do out. I mean, I gotta be better about this. I do this with my game programming students. I was taught this when I was 12, 14, something like that, about how to program is you write out all the logic first and then you implement it all. So let's do a roll initiative. Okay, and then let's see, after that we need to add them to add to turn manager. And if you follow anything like Michael Games tutorials, he actually does a great job at the beginning of his tutorial videos of saying, look, here's the steps we need to do, and then go back and add the code. It's something I get carried away and I like to just write code and not think through this, but we are, let's make sure we do this stuff logically so we can do all this other we can work through efficiently and try to hit our deadlines. So we roll initiative, we get add actor to turn manager. Thanks, Aya. Awesome. True thinking like a programmer approach. Okay, so let's see here. We're going to do roll initiative, add actor to the turn manager. Let's connect all of our signals that we're going to need to know for that character. And then is there anything else we need to do? I think that's all we need to do to register. Because that's basically what we're doing here is right here. We're adding the actor. We're setting the action points. This is a hack right now. And then we're doing the connecting the signal for the next turn. So let's start with rolling our initiative. So what we want to do here is we're going to take, am I doing this in the right spot? Hold on. So here's our turn manager. And right now, when we add the actor, we're passing in the initiative. Oh, because we're doing it right now in setup. That's right. Because we're doing it right here. We're rolling the initiative. Okay. So let's roll our initiative, and our initiative, does that pass back? It returns what the roll is. Okay, perfect. Okay. So we're going to do var roll equals initiative system dot roll initiative, and then we're going to pass it the actor that we're setting up here. Okay. And then we're going to leave it like this because, again, we might have other things we want to do with the initiative to adjust in the future in case some weird circumstance comes up. Like we want to change how we do tiebreakers, or we have spells or something like that that might mess with the initiative systems. So then here we need our turn manager. Okay. And then we just need to add in the, add the actor, add actor, oh, capital A. There we go. Add actor. Wow. I'm going to change some stuff to try to keep my what do I want to call it? Capitalization the same way. Snake case, the case, all that stuff. So I'm going to try to keep that the same way for the function calls. Okay, so let's go back to Combat Manager. We're going to add underscore actor. Okay, and then we're going to pass in the actor, and we're going to pass in the role. Okay, so we got that. And then here we can set for right now. Let's set the action points. I'm just going to put temp, remove later. Yeah, I'll just do that for right now. Okay, and then we need to connect in the signals, which is this right here. Okay. So now we roll the initiative, we add them to the turn manager, we set the actor action points, and then we connect the signals. Okay. So with that, let's also create a function to remove them. So remove actor. Then we're going to send in the actor. We're going to call it the character body 2D. Yeah. Brain was thinking that maybe we need to send in the dictionary from the turn manager. No, we're going to remove the actor. Okay. Oh, not remove actor. Let's keep our naming. Unregister. R-E-G-I-S-T-R. Unregister actor. Okay. And then so in here, when they, let's say goblins killed or whatever, we need to remove them out. So we can call our turn manager dot remove actor, and then we need to pass, what is it? Just actor. Yep, that's all we need. Get a couple spaces down here so we can see the pop up here. So remove the actor. Do we need to do anything else? I feel like we need to do something else here. We need to do, because what happens if the actor dies on their turn? So how do we... Well, actually, look, we already have action complete. So if their action's done, we could just use that signal. So whatever their action is that caused them to die, if that's done, then we can just move on to the next turn. Let's try that. Let's see if that works. So let's just do if actor.action complete, action complete. Wait, that's a signal. We can't do it that way, can we? Oh no, dummy me. What am I doing? Let's This is why we should have done this. Okay, so let's go back here and let's do this. So first thing we need to do, we don't need initiative, but we need to remove actor from turn manager. And then we need to remove, or not remove, disconnect signals. Okay. Because what we're going to do is we remove the entity in our turn manager. When we remove it, we already have the functionality to then jump to whoever the next node is and set that as the active node. So we already have that in the linked list functionality. So here we just need to then remove the signal if it's connected. So let's try if actor dot action complete dot is connected. Next turn. Oops. Underscore. And then we can just use dot disconnect. There we go. Okay. So then we can disconnect the signal. So when we remove it, then that disconnects it from there. So now what we need to do is come back to this setup for actor and in players. We can just go through this and we can just call register actor. So that should do the exact same thing that we were just doing. So let's see if we work through this. I didn't break anything. Oh my God. Okay. So we should have it as 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay. Perfect. Okay. We don't have a way to remove the actor yet. Should there be a way? You know, let's reuse one of those buttons we just made. Let's go back here and let's take the, let's just use that chest button. We'll use the chest button. So let's make it active first. Oops. Okay. And then down here, we want to connect it. Chest button dot press dot. Oh my God. Actor remove. Okay. So we'll take that. And then down here, we have actor move. So function actor remove. Void. And then we're going to call the combat manager and we're going to do unregister. Was it in the combat manager? Hold on. Now I'm getting myself confused. Yes, unregister actor. Okay. Actor remove. And then we're going to call this unregister the actor. And we need to pass in the. Wait, how do we do this in here? We did actor move. Current node.actor. Okay, so then we'll just pass in this. So then what we'll do is this should, in theory, whoops, that's not where I wanted to put that, right here. That should tell it to remove the current turn node actor. Oh wait, we're in game board. We can't use turn manager. We have to use combat manager. Does combat manager have a who's active? It does not. So we'll just add. This is just for testing. This is not how you should do this. Combat manager dot turn manager, the current turn node. Okay. So let's try this. So if I hit the chest button, it should remove whoever the current character is from the active initiative. So right now we have player 2. Player 2. So if I move player 2 down to here and I remove them. Okay, so player 2 is gone. Yep, and now we've moved on to player 4, which is our rogue. And for now on, player 2 should not be able to act at all. Okay, that was odd. Why did it trigger that one? Yep, and it's skipping over player 2. That was a weird bug. Why did that happen like that? We'll have to go back and look at that. We'll have to see, because it didn't actually turn. Oh, you know what? I think because when we unregistered it, the show possibles current actor, we have a current actor in the game board. Current actor right here. Okay, so that we need to, when we unregister, we then need to change the current actor, and that's going to equal to this. Okay, so that should fix that, because that would make sense. So if we move down here, we remove him. Now if I move him over to here, him to here, there we go. Okay, so that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. Okay, so let's see. So we created the registration system. All right, we can register and deregister. We'll probably have to come back when I do polish and those passes in the later milestones to do that. I think, what time is it? It's 11:35. Okay, we might very well. Ooh. I am feeling much better about today's progress compared to the last episode. Last episode was very rough. Okay, so we can just check that off. So all we have left really now is we need to spawn a monster and add it to the turn order. So let's see. Can we... How do we want to do this? Do I want to just... We need to build the spawner. That's what we need to do. We need to build the spawner. So let's create a new... Let's create a new scene. New scene. Okay. It's going to be a 2D scene. I'm going to call this a monster spawner. Okay. For right now, I'm just going to do, is it a color? No, 2D texture. No, what is the 2D? What's the, just like a, let's use, actually, what we use for the position thing? There we go. I'll just copy this sprite. Okay. I'll add that in here, paste. But we're going to make it 8 by 8 because it's only going to be one tile. That should be fun. Our character, I forget, do we offset our characters with their sprites? We did, so we should probably offset the spawner as well. Okay, so then that should put it right in the corner. Oh, no. Okay, that works. There we go. 4 by 4. Oh, right, because this, yeah, okay. So this is our monster spawner scene. Let's go ahead and let's just save scene as. Core components. New folder. Let's call it spawners. Okay. And then monster spawner. Okay. So now we have our monster spawner scene. It's just this 2D tile. Okay, so let's go back over to our scripts and where we do Okay, so we need to add this in game board. We need to add in the spawner into here. Let's just do just real quick, just make sure that what it looks like on the board. We add the spawners in here. We're going to move the spawner to 1616. Okay. Boom. Okay. Yep. So that's the right size and set up. Okay. Okay. So let's get that out of there. Okay. So let's go back here. Let's think of our where we're drawing the tile. So on the game board, let's see, add tile. Okay. So we pick the new tile. We orient it all. But we're setting the A star here. Whoops, didn't mean to hold the space bar. We're going through that. Tile selected is emitted. Okay, so probably in here is where we're going to draw. We're going to add that into the game board. Do we have a reference to the game board? We do not. So let's add that in. Actually, you know what? Not game board. We want a reference to the game board, the spawners, because we need to add it to the spawners. Okay, so here, monster spawner, add to the game board. So spawners dot add child, and we're going to call it monster spawner. Okay. Okay, and then so what we need here is we need to do var. Do we want to do, no, let's do new monster spawner instead. New monster spawner equals, and then we're going to put new here. Okay, whoops. And then we're going to take our scene. We're going to make that a constant up here. Okay. Spawner.instantiate. Okay, and then so we're going to put it there. We have our grid location. But we need to put this in the world value. So what are we doing to... So when we have these move... So when we calculate the target cell, we're going to take the position to cell. So we have a target cell. So if we're referencing the cell by the top left corner, so if we take the vector 2i times the tile size, that should... I'm just trying to think if that's going to work for negative. That should work for negative space, because if we're adding at -4, -4, and then it's going to be -4 times 8, which is -32, -32, right? It won't be -4, it'd be -3. Let's try it. We'll try it. We'll see what happens here. Okay. Where was I? Here we go. Instantiate, we're going to add it, and then we're going to put it... Do we put the coordinates... Try to remember the order of operations here. Do we put the global coordinates first and then append it to the scene? No, we need to add it to the tree because it's global position, and then we can add the corner. So let's do the new new monster spawner dot global position POSIT global position equals, and then we're going to just take the vector to I, and then we're going to times it by tile size. No, this is a constant in this one, tile size. Okay. So now it should, let's cross our fingers, when we run this, spawn the monsters. It did, but it put it in the wrong spot. Okay. So we need to do the plus grid location offset. So I think I need this as well before I multiply it by tile size. So if I take all of this, okay, we copy this, and then we put this here like that. Okay, let's try that. That should put it in the wrong spot still. What are we doing wrong? Because that's not where we have it, right? Because we have the monster spawner right here. It should be 2, 2. Oh, right. So this should actually be in, let's see, if this is 8, 16, 16. So there should be 16, 16 is where it's drawing it. So let's go back and look at our math. So what are we doing? It's in 2, 2 times 8. That should be 16, 16. Did we do anything here? No. Because we put this at 16, 16. That puts it in the right spot. What are we doing wrong? Wait, we also have the snap tile. This finds us the actual tile. Position to cell. No, that's for our local map. So again, if this is 2, 2, why is it drawing? What am I thinking wrong? Why am I thinking wrong? Because if it's 0, 0 times tile size, it should draw it at 0, 0. If it's in 0, 1, 2, 2 times tile size, 2 times 8. What's our tile? Oh, wait, what's our tile size? We did tile size 4. Right, because we're doing, yeah, tile size is the wrong thing. We need to do grid size. Grid size. How do we reference the grid size? That's what I'm doing wrong. I think it's just a function of the tile map. So if we change this from tile size to grid, is it just grid size? What is the, actually, you know, we did it over here in the game board. We did Control F, grid, dungeon tile map, tile set, tile size, right here. That's what we wanted. Tile set, that tile size. Okay. So if we go back over here, we change this to tile set, that tile size. That puts it right where we want it. Okay. Yeah. The tile size I was trying to reference is how many cells are on the tile, not how big each one of the cells are. Okay. So that makes more sense. Okay. So we got that. That puts it where it needs to be. And then what we need to do is we need to then have, when that becomes ready. Do we want it ready? We can do an activate. We'll just call it new monster spawner.spawn. So that's what we'll do here. We'll call it .spawn. Okay, SPAWN. Okay. And then on the monster tile spawner, let's create our script here. Spawners, monster spawner, create. Monster spawner. Okay. And then we're going to do a function called spawn. Okay. And then void. And then here we need to, I need to think through the process here of what this needs to do. But let's just get something real stupid simple going for right now. Let's create a character body 2D. Let's do one more scene, new scene. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Control Z. Scene, new scene. Other node, character body 2D. We're gonna orc. I think we have orcs in here. Characters, player characters. We did not bring in our enemies. Here we go. Orc. Okay, so we do have an orc, a basic orc right now. Idle right there, orc. So let's add the child node. Let's add the sprite 2D. Let's take a look at this. Here's this idle. I think that's a 16:4. Yep, there we go. There's our orc. Okay. It's here. Boom, boom. Wants us to add a collision shape. Sure, we'll add it just to make it happy. Rectangle of 4x4, just like our players. Okay, save. And then let's put this under enemies, orc. Save. Okay, so there's our orc. So we have a basic orc. Let's go back into our monster spawner script. Let's take our orc scene. Let's make this a constant. Spawn, and then we're going to do var new orc equals orc dot instantiate, and then we can just do get. Can we just do adds? Because we have the spawner, we need to know. Wait, we need to come back here because we need to add it under the actors. So come back over here. Whoops. Okay, so let's add an export. Do we want an, no, we don't want an export. We want, how are we going to tell it the actors node in the tree, in the game board tree? Also, we misspelled spawner. Okay. So the monster spawner is going to be in the spawners, which is going to be let's do because these are going to be coming in and out, it needs to get a reference to the actor node. So let's do this. This may not be the best idea, but I'm going to do this here. I'm going to create a script here. I'm going to call this spawners. Okay. And then in the spawners, we're going to do an export var. And then we're going to do an actors. And that's going to be a node 2D. Okay. Then we're also going to do an export var. What else do we need to know about? We know actors. We need to know about the game board. And that's also a node 2D. Okay. And then we also need to know about we're going to need to know about anything else for sponsors, because we're going to have we have the actors for the characters and the players and the enemies. We're going to have the chests are going to be actors. The traps are going to be actors. Let's see, what else do we have? Do we need to use UI? Do we need to know about the dungeon tile map? I don't think so. I think this is all we're going to need. It's just those two for right now. So let's just save that. Okay. And then so what we can do here is in our spawners, we can just assign the actors. Put that there. Assign the game board just in case we need that. Save that. Okay. And then we come back into monster spawner. And then here, what we can do is we can do get. I don't like doing it this way, but we can get parent dot actors. Did I call it actors? I think it's actors dot add child new orc. Okay. So then what that should do is when we add the monster spawner in here, it's going to pull in the actors. So that's going to grab actors, which I think we did lowercase, right? Actors. Yep, actors. And then we're going to add in an orc actor. So orc instantiate, add child orc. Oh, and then we need to set the orc's location, which is going to be the location of the monster spawner. So then we can do new orc dot global position, POSIT, equals position, equals global position. So that should put the orc right on top of this. So if we run this, cross fingers. Okay. Right, because remember we put the characters are offset. So the orc needs to also, whoops, as I smack my mic, I'm sorry about that. The orc also needs to be offset. So let's go back and look at our players. When we look at them, they are transform. They are offset by 4. So let's offset the orc by 4 as well. Orc scene. He's going to be offset by 4. Okay. So now, oh, right, because that offset, this offset does not actually translate. It's the sprite that needs to be offset by 4. And then the collision shape also needs to be offset by 4. Okay. Right. There we go. So then if I take the monster spawner here, close this, monster spawner, we hide this, then we should just see the orc, oops, orc appear on the square. Hey, there we go. Okay. And then, in theory, if this is all right, let's go back into our tile editor. And again, calling back to milestone 1, why we did this. Let's take and put 4 monsters in here. Save. Now if we come back and run it, we do not have 4 monsters. Why do we not have 4 monsters? Oh, did we save the library? Okay, now let's try it. Forgot to hit save, I think. Yep, there we go. Gotta hit save on those tiles, or else they ain't gonna work. Okay. So let's see here. We got some much needed water here. Let's see. The downside is, right now, we can just go stand on top of the orc. Oh, wait, we can't. Because the orcs are on the same collision layer as the players. So let's set up our layers. Let's do this here. Layer 1. This is going to be the world layer. Layer 2 will be players. And this will be monsters. Yeah, we'll call it monsters. So we'll do that for now. we're on orcs, so orcs will exist on layer 3. And people, where's our players? Game board. This is not a unique, and they're on layer 2. Okay. Okay, so now I should be able to move on top of them with no problem. Yep. And bunk. Okay. Okay, last thing. Let's do ordering. Y sort. Let's add that in so things look proper now. So if we move here, we should move behind, in front of. Nope, it did not. Oh, right, because we have to go through, and actors also need Y sort enabled. Yeah, that should that do it? That should probably do it. Yep, there we go. That enabled our Y sort the proper way. Okay. Okay. Let's look at our list. Let's see what do we have on our list. We have got monster AI has been moved. We did that to the new milestone. We have got validate turn order. Right. We still have to add the monster, the orc to the turn order. Okay. So let's go back and do that. And then we'll probably take a break here for lunch or rest my voice and then do some more tomorrow. But I think once we do this, we might very well have this milestone done. Let's see. Okay, so let's see here. Let's go back. Where our monster spawner. So when we spawn, we also need to initiate the combat manager to then add the actor. Okay, so that's going to be another one of the spawners we're going to need in the export var combat manager. That's just a node. Okay, so if we come back over here, let's assign our combat manager. Boom. Okay, so we save that monster spawner. So we put him in the global position, and then, excuse me, we need to do our combat manager. Nope, we need to do get parent dot combat manager dot combat manager is just register actor, right? Register actor. There we go. Register actor, and then we're going to send in the new orc. Oops. New orc. Okay. And then what we should probably do is, once we've done all of this, so when we add the tile, we're adding the tile, and then I'm just trying to think of the order we're launching this. So when we're ready, we go through, we draw the tile, add the tile, then we add the A star. We go through each character. And then combat manager, we do set up the player list. Okay. So in theory, if I have this right, we're going to come in here. All of the orcs are going to exist first in the list. And then we're going to add in the players to the list. In theory. Error. Because I don't have an action complete signal on the orcs. Okay, so let's go. Oops, nope. I want to go local players. We're just going to steal that action complete. And then we're going to put that on the orcs themselves. Yep, that's fine. Okay. So now we have the signal. That should hopefully be okay. So then we've got all these guys. We see we have got, here's all their initiatives, everything rolled. Let's see, the highest is going to be an orc followed by player number 5. Oh no, this is orc. These are orcs. So orc, and then player 3. Orc, player 3. Hey, look at that. Okay. So that's all. They're adding to the initiative. Perfectly fine. What we need to do is, I mean, that's perfectly fine. Right now they're rolling higher. Player 2, now if I do move, player 2 should be able to move. And then what's going to happen when I'm done here is now we're moving to player 3. And then from player 3, player 4. Wow. Okay. And then after this, we're now on the orc's turn, so I can't do anything else. Yep. I can't click move because we can't move on the orc. Okay. So that is actually a good spot to be in. So monster spawns, they're added to the turn order. Our units can move around the board. We have opening a chest. We should have we have this deregister thing. So what if we do, I'm just curious. So right now we have player 2, player 3. Okay, so let's just move our players. Okay, player 3. Okay, and now we're on player 2, player 3. We're on an orc. So let's remove the orc. Okay, and that brings us to player 4. Yep, player 4. Okay, explore. And that brings us to player 4, brings us to player 1. So we're just pretending that we're like killing these orcs. Okay, and now we're up to an orc. We have 2 orcs. So if we remove, then remove. Oh, there's still one more orc. I only removed 1 orc. Okay, but it works. You can kind of see where I'm going with that. So now what we need is the actual enemy AI to be able to do the next step. But that's done. The only thing I don't have checked off here is our game manager. I don't know if I want to do game manager as a singleton or if I want to do the game manager as an actual scene so that we can load and unload on the scene and have the board. Let's just make a script for right now. We're going to assume that the game manager is going to be a a singleton. So let's just establish that. Once we establish that, we can say, hey, this milestone is complete. So let's go ahead and do this. And then I got to do one more check before we end it. Okay, so let's see. Core components, create new. Just make sure I don't have a game manager already. I don't. Okay. Create new script. I'm going to call it a game manager. Okay. And because it's going to be a singleton, we can't give it that. And we can just do a function ready. And we'll just print out game manager ready. Okay. And then we'll just add it to our project. It doesn't do anything right now, but in case we need it, it will be there. Game manager, add, open, perfect, close. Okay, so now if we run, game manager ready. Perfect. Okay. Okay, so let's come back over here. Okay, let's go back over here. Turn started, refresh action points, action selected. Okay, so we've got this stuff. We've got this. We don't have any win-loss. This is going to be game manager stuff. Check if there's new tiles. Yes, we have that. And then we advance to the next actor. I think there is a slight problem. If we wait for tile population. I want to check one thing. I want to go back here. I want to double check because I don't remember if we fixed this or not, but let's go back to our game board here. Let's change this back to our original entrance. So now we're not spawning the monsters. But if we do move here, we move here, and we don't select the tile, but I do straight to move. Yeah, okay. So we need to make sure that that doesn't trigger until the tile has been selected. So let's go back here. Show possibles. Down, 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 down. So we pop up the show possibles and we wait. We add tile selected, emit. But we need to wait for that. I may just do this tomorrow. My throat needs a break and I need some food and I need to use the restroom. But let me just think if there's anything else here that needs to be touched on. I need to fix this. This can be an easy fix. So we don't want to advance to the next turn. Advance turn. So do a show possibles. And we say if the horizontal or vertical is visible, we await tile selected. So we need something here before we trigger the next turn. So in the turn manager. What was that signal we did? We called it. Well, we have turn ended. Do we use action point? True. Oh, it's probably in our combat manager. It's probably where we're doing it. Here we go. Next turn, if it's 0, print so-and-so's turns over. We're setting the turn manager current turn node to the next turn, and we're emitting it. And then we're resetting the points. So we are resetting the points, so that's being taken care of. But we're emitting the new turn here, not waiting for the possibles. Yeah, I'm gonna punt this till tomorrow. We're in a good spot, so let's go ahead and stop our timer here. Stop. Okay. Let's take a look here. Where are we at? We're at 18 hours. Okay. So we're at 18 hours. We are basically at the end of Milestone 2. Okay. Because I'm telling you, when we ended the last episode or last stream, I didn't think we were going to be able to hit this one in time. So I'm glad that I sat down and just wrote down my ideas of what I needed to do before we went forward. So let's take a look here. Let's just make sure. I think I got everything here. The only thing I want to do. Yeah. No, I think we got turn, victory, reward. So I got that new setup style done. That's good. Anything else you guys can think of? Anything that I think we need to do before we decide to close out this milestone? I know we punted this down to here, but it just makes sense to put that into the monster AI. I also have turn advancement right here. So, I mean, it's kind of, I almost feel like we're taking that and putting that up here. So I just need that. So maybe tomorrow morning when I stream again, we'll get that bug fixed to make sure that we wait until the new tile's revealed before we move forward. I'm wondering if we should also do maybe automatically just do the next tile instead of waiting for the player to click. If there's only one possibility, we only show the possibles if they're both viable. That might be a polish question. We might just punt that down to the polish level. So I think we'll fix that bug and tomorrow morning on my next stream. And then we will kick off Milestone 3. And Milestone 3 is going to be figuring out our entire combat system. So just to refresh where we were on that is we're doing the Hero Quest version. So combat is going to be a dice pool. We're going to roll the dice, check the results, and see how many skulls we get or whatever to cause damage. And then monsters will have their shields, heroes will have their shields to defend against it. And then so in there, I mean, we've already kind of got stuff like this. We have the remove unregister actor, so we already have a way to deal with this. So we're getting very close. This should actually be, I'm going to jinx myself by saying this. So you guys could, clip this right now and just say, look here, this is where you called it. This is where you screwed yourself up. But I think Milestone 3 should be a pretty clear-cut, straight system. It should be very, very clear of, here we go, build a simple dice roller. 1, 2, or 3 is damage. 4, 5 is player shields, and the 6 is a monster shield. And then we just go through and we deal with all the results. We just have to build a simple, decision engine. If player is within 6 squares, move and attack. If they're more than 6 squares, double move towards them. Something along those lines. We'll have to come up with a way that how each monster is going to decide who it's going to target. But that's going to be all part of this. When they die, remove them. Or when the heroes die, remove them. And everything in Milestone 3, everything's going to have like 1 hit point. So monsters will have 1 hit point, heroes will have 1 hit point, just so we get the signals and the actual mechanics working. And then when we get into this, where we build out the heroes and their abilities, I have a feeling Milestone 4 is going to eat up any extra time that we have left over from Milestone 3 and this time we have left over from the first 2 milestones. So, yeah. So I think, let's see here. So let's jump back over. Oh, hold on. That ain't going to work. Let's try that one more time. This camera turned off for some reason. Let's see if we can get that back up here. OBS. See if we can get that camera back online. I guess not. Maybe not. There we go. Okay. So now if we jump back over. So I think we're at a good point. We're basically done Milestone 2. We have got, I feel like the camera is kind of cockeyed, but we have got the entire list. And you can kind of see here, I've gone through, I've checked off everything as we've gone through. I've got the reorder idea that I came up with for how we should structure our scenes. So I think we are at a very good point. There was some great conversation today. Thanks for the questions, Overload. Thanks for the question, Aya, for giving me a little bit of encouragement of thinking properly. So I think we're at a good spot today. And I look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow. Hopefully my voice will recover a little bit before tomorrow. But we'll continue streaming on. Most likely we're going to be kicking off milestone number 3 in next session. We'll plan through that and we'll get it going. So until